I figure since this is our last class before Rosh HaShana, let's talk a little bit about Rosh HaShana and the new year that we're approaching. Rosh HaShana and never giving up. On Rosh HaShana, the Gemara says, Rabbi Yehoshua Omer b'Rosh HaShana nifkida Sarah, Rachel, ve-chana. On Rosh HaShana, our three of our righteous women in Tanakh, Sarah, Rachel, and Chana, were finally answered. The decree was given to them on Rosh Hashanah that they would bear a child. Rosh Hashanah. Yatsa Yosef mi beit ha'asurin. On Rosh Hashanah, Yosef was freed from prison. Rosh Hashanah batla avodah me'avotenu b'Mitzrayim. On Rosh Hashanah, 6 months before we left Egypt, we were allowed to no longer be slaves. In other words, the plagues were so created such an upheaval within Egyptian society that the rules of slavery no longer applied to the Jews. So we were no longer slaves 6 months before we left Egypt. Okay, and that happened on Rosh Hashanah as well. What is the common link between all of these events? You get a clue from a pismon that we say on the morning of the first day of Rosh Hashanah. I don't know how many of you are in shul by then, but if you want to look it up, it's in the art scroll Machzor. There are many pismonim that we say in an undertone at the repetition of the Amidah on Rosh Hashanah morning. But it says, Aim asher b'tzedek nityashana. The mother, it's all very poetic, of course, which is why it's always good to have an English machzor, because it's impossible to understand some of these words. The mother, referring to Sarah, who grew old righteously, b'mo nityasha b'techel dushana. Just when she despaired of giving birth, she finally became rejuvenated. Gocha pikada b'Rosh HaShana. Gocha, he who drew her forth from the womb, Gocha, the one who drew her. Okay, these are all they're like medieval Hebrew, you know. Pikada, he remembered her on Rosh Hashanah.
It even rhymes.
Yeah, that's the whole point. Yeah. It's why it's a pismon, it's a poem. Okay. What is the point? What are we trying to accentuate about Sarah having her prayers answered on Rosh Hashanah? We're pointing out that just when she despaired and she thought, okay, I mean, if I was Sarah, I probably would have despaired a few years earlier. I mean, she was 90 by this time. So maybe she kept hoping, hope after hope, that she would have a child. But she hits 90 and she says, okay, it's just not meant to be. And she decided, okay, that's it. She despaired, she gave up, and I guess resigned herself that she wasn't going to have a child. Boom. That moment is when Hashem decides you're going to have a child. Now, if we look at all of the other items on the list, I think we'll see a common link in that idea. Rashi tells us that Yosef, having been released from prison on Rosh Hashanah, Yosef had to remain in prison 2 extra years. You're familiar with that medrash that says that? Rashi, at the very end of Parshas Vayeshev, brings this when it says that the Sar HaMashkim, the wine steward, did not remember Yosef, and he forgot him. And so Rashi explains, Mipnei shetala bo Yosef bitchono lezichro, because Yosef relied on the wine steward's memory, huskak lihiyot asur od shtei shanim. He needed to remain imprisoned for additional 2 years. Now, many of the Meforshim ask the question. They say, like, what, is this a punishment to Yosef? Did he do something wrong? I mean, here he is. He's languishing in a foreign jail. Must not, the ancient world, being in jail was no picnic. I can guarantee you that. And we're told that, if you see an opportunity to save yourself, you have to save yourself. So he sees, maybe this man is a shaliach of Hashem, who's being sent to help me get out of prison. So do me a favor, sir. now that you're being freed and you're going to see the Pharaoh, please tell him that I've been imprisoned unfairly. I'm an innocent victim. So what did he do wrong? Why does he have to be thrown into jail and sit in jail an extra 2 years? The answer is not that this is a punishment to Yosef, but Hashem required Yosef to finally give up. In other words, after 2 years of not hearing a word, Yosef said to himself, it ain't happening. I'm not getting out. Boom, that's when it happens. When he finally gave up hope of getting out, that's when the miracle occurs, and Paro has a dream, and Yosef is pulled out of prison. The Jewish people's redemption is the same way. When it comes to their servitude, the Torah says, "Vaye'anchu b'nei Yisrael min ha'avodah vayiz'aku," that the Jewish people's cries went up to heaven and they sighed. That sighing, the word anacha, is really the expression of a person who basically is that's it. It ain't happening. We're never getting out of here. And it's at that moment, on Rosh HaShana, the plagues start, no more slavery. That's the consistent message, and I believe you can apply that to Rachel, and you can apply that to even Chana, even though we know that Chana cried and prayed desperately. But after her cries and her prayers, she gave up. She said, that's it. I've given my last desperate plea. If it ain't happening, it ain't happening. In all of these cases, the miracle or the deliverance occurs to the person at a time of what we call yeush, a time of despair, a time of really saying, just when she despaired of giving birth, that's when the miracle took place. And as a matter of fact, this is reflected in the Gemara as well. Tanu Rabbanan, our sages teach source number 5. Ki adin Hashem amo, that God will judge his people. So what does this mean? And because the pasuk says in Parshas Ha'azinu, Ki yireh ki oz lasiyad ve'efes atzur ve'azuv, that God will see that people's hands have pulled away when they will see that there was no one there to help them. And what the pasuk is describing is the sense of despair, of hopelessness. And the Gemara reflects on that, and it says, Ein ben David ba ad sheyitya'ashu min ha'geula. The Messiah will only come after the Jewish people give up hope of if the Mashiach ever come. Not that we don't believe in the coming of Mashiach, but we feel that there's no way he's going to come now. No way he's coming now. I believe he's going to come someday, but I'm not going to live to see it. That's the yeush that we're talking about. And by the way, that's not heretical. You know, people think that you have to believe that Mashiach is coming today. You don't have to believe that. Maimonides' 13th principle of faith is, Ani mamin b'viat HaMashiach. I believe in the coming of the Messiah, and even though he may delay, I still believe he's coming. I look around the world around me today, and I say, there's no way that Mashiach is going to come now. It would just be too embarrassing, you know, if Mashiach were to come now. Too many things we just got wrong. But it's that attitude of Yeush min ha'geula that is the time when Mashiach is going to come, when we least expect it because we've despaired of his coming. Shenemar ve'efes atzur ve'azuv. Kiviyachol ein somech ve'ozer lishol. At the time when we think that no one's there to help us, that's when Mashiach is going to come. Ki hada Rabbi Zera. And this is consistent with Rabbi Zera's principle. Ki havamashkach rabbanan demi'askibe. Whenever he found that the sages were discussing and studying the Messianic era, Amar lehu b'matusa ba'ina minaychu lo tirachkuha. He says, fellas, do me a favor. Don't distance the coming of the Messiah by focusing on it so much. Don't focus on Mashiach, because the more you focus on it, the more you're pushing it away. Which is why, this is the anti-Chabad polemic, if you'll allow me. Right? The anti-Chabad polemic that's innate in here is that don't emphasize Mashiach, because the more you emphasize it, the more you're distancing Mashiach. Mashiach will come when he's supposed to come. We have to focus on today, trying to make the world a better place. And when Mashiach comes, he'll come. I mean that, tongue-in-cheek when I say the anti-Chabad polemic, because what they're doing is God's work. But the point is that the emphasis should not be on let's bring Mashiach. The emphasis should be let's make the world a holy place. And let's make this world a place that Mashiach would want to come to. Not that we expect him to come today, but let's hope. The Tanina, and as we learned in the Brisa, Shlosha boin behesach hadas. 3 things come into a person's life without any expectation whatsoever, all of a sudden without any expectation, without any anticipation. And what are they? Mashiach, Mitzia, ve-akrav. The 3 things are Mashiach, which is a great thing. A Mitzia, you find something in the street, you find a Mitzia, you weren't expecting to find it. That's also something that can be very, usually it's good, sometimes it's not so good. And akrav is a scorpion. You're walking down the street when you least expect it, a scorpion comes out and bites you, also totally unexpected. So sometimes things that are unexpected can be good, sometimes they can be bad, but things happen in life that come out of nowhere, come out of left field, as they say, that totally were unexpected. As it says in Sefer Yecheskel, this is the prophecy that Yecheskel got with the dry bones. That Vayomer Elai ben Adam, that God said to me after, he said to me, do you think I can resurrect these bones? And Yecheskel said, Hashem Elokim ata yodeo, God, only you know. And God was telling him, Hatzamot ha'ela kol beit Yisrael hema. These dry bones represent the Jewish people. Hinei omrim, because they're saying, Yavshu atzmotenu ve'avda tikvatenu nigzarnu lanu. That's what Israel says. Our bones have dried up. Our hope is lost. We're already in the rear view mirror. It's already been decreed. Nothing's going to happen. That's at that very moment when the bones dry up, because people lose hope, that's when the bones get resurrected. That's the whole message of the dry bones. Yeah.
So I'm just curious, if you take these concepts and you apply them to our everyday tefillos and bakashos, right? So it's basically saying that it's not until you resign yourself to your fate and resign yourself to the fact that it's not in your hands, that it's in Hashem's hands, and whether it happens or not has nothing to do with you. It's not until you get to that point that your tefillos are actually going to be answered.
Either tefillos are answered, or, that
in one way or another.
It doesn't mean that this is an absolute.
Right.
It means that when it comes to really monumental things in life, sometimes yeush, sometimes sort of giving up has to occur, and sort of basically resigning yourself that it is what it is before Hashem is prepared to perform the miracle. It's not always. A lot of times a person can have every expectation of a refuah or some other kind of gift in life, and then it comes. But a lot of times it happens in this way, when it comes to the really historic things in life. So and you're really leading to the question is like, why does it have to be this way? Why does it have to be this way? Why is it necessary for a person to have yeush before that miraculous event happens? And why is that related to Rosh Hashanah? This is really the main point, because if all of these things converge onto the message of Rosh Hashanah, this is the time when Sarah, after giving up, happens on Rosh Hashanah, this miracle. Yosef, he gives up, the miracle happens. On Rosh Hashanah, when the Jews just gave up, all of a sudden the miracle of no more slavery happens. Why is it associated with Rosh Hashanah? So, let's take a look first at the Shem Mishmuel, and then we'll offer a couple of other ideas. We're running out of time, so let me just skip to a point where I think we can run into. He explains. He says, "V'chas v'shalom," towards the end of the first line. Lomar kipshuto shaharei ze ikar min yud gimel ikarim. He says, to say that it means that we're going to just give up of Mashiach ever coming, he says, that's not what it means, because it's one of the 13 principles of faith that I believe in the coming of Mashiach. Ela haperushu shahageula lo tihiyeh ketenai ba'avodato. But what it really means is that what you're essentially saying is, I resign myself to the fact that even if Mashiach does not come, that's not going to affect my relationship with Hashem. That's what it means. Ki afilu chas v'shalom, im lo yigalenu Hashem yizbarach, ein anu niftarim mila avodoso. Because even if, God forbid, God will not redeem us, will not send Mashiach, that does not absolve me. My relationship with Hashem does not hinge on what I hope to receive from Him. My relationship with Hashem is independent of it. And that's what is meant here of giving up on Mashiach. You're not giving up on Mashiach. You certainly hope that He comes. But whether He comes or not has nothing to do with how I serve God. And then he tells us about the Baal Shem Tov. He says, Ve'echat hu yigalenu b'dor hazeh, o be'echad min hadorot habayim. And therefore, if Mashiach comes in my lifetime, or He comes in my children's or grandchildren's or great-children's, doesn't matter. I'm still a servant of God, and it doesn't affect the way I serve Hashem. V'chol zeh mipe'et ha'yerusha shinchil lanu Yaakov. He says this is part of the Yerusha that Yaakov Avinu gave us, that we continue our devotion to Hashem, regardless of whether we're still holding on to hope of hopes that He's going to give us something.